At this hour on Good Morning America, first look, the escalating war in the Middle East. Iran ramping up attacks overnight, now targeting a U.S. embassy in the region. The State Department now ordering the evacuation of non-emergency personnel from multiple countries.
More troops headed to the region. The Trump administration warning Iran the hardest hits are yet to come, and the next phase will be even more punishing.
New insight into what comes next as the U.S. death toll rises. And Iran threatens to attack ships traveling through a crucial transit point for 1/5 of the world's oil.
ABC News live coverage of the attack on Iran continues right now.
From ABC News, this is Good Morning America, First Look.
For Tuesday morning, everyone, I'm Sophie Flay.
And I'm Hannah Batal. We begin with the breaking news from the Middle East. Iran is ramping up airstrikes around the region in response to U.S. and Israeli attacks.
All Americans are being urged to leave the Middle East. The wave of Iranian airstrikes now prompting U.S. embassies in Iraq, Jordan, and Bahrain to order non-emergency personnel to leave their posts.
In the meantime, the Trump administration is shedding new light on the justification for attacking Iran and where this conflict is headed next. ABC's Marcus Moore continues our coverage from Doha, Qatar, one of the countries now being targeted by Iran. Marcus, good morning.
Well, hey, Hannah, good morning. There have been new intercepts over Doha this morning, and you can hear the massive and loud booms echoing through the city. And we've seen a wave of airstrikes across the region overnight, targeting Americans and American interests. The Trump administration is responding, saying Iran has yet to see the full scale of this U.S. military operation.
Overnight, President Trump vowing to retaliate after the U.S. embassy in Saudi Arabia was hit by Iranian drones. Officials say the embassy, relatively empty at the time, sustained only minor damage. A fire was also reported at the U.S. embassy in Kuwait. It was in that country where the Pentagon says 6 American service members were killed and 18 others were injured during an Iranian attack on a tactical operations center. U.S. officials vowing to ramp up attacks.
The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now.
Chaotic scenes playing out across the Middle East. At least 11 countries are now involved in this expanding conflict. Qatar says it shot down 2 Iranian bombers, the first report of Iran sending warplanes into Qatari airspace. The State Department is now urging all Americans to leave the Middle East, quote, due to serious safety risks. But much of the region's airspace is on lockdown. Flight trackers show just how many flights are avoiding the area.
You're fine?
Video circulating online shows a U.S. pilot shot down over Kuwait being approached by locals.
Thank you for helping us.
3 U.S. fighter jets were shot down by friendly fire. All crew members survived after ejecting. The U.S. has now carried out nearly 2,000 strikes in Iran across at least 50 locations. Explosions ripping through Tehran as stealth bombers dropped 2,000-pound bombs on underground facilities. Fighter jets destroyed. Multiple Iranian Navy ships sunk. Iran's Revolutionary Guard headquarters leveled. The major focus, Iran's missile launchers and those deadly one-way attack drones, which are now wreaking havoc across the Gulf. Overnight, Central Command releasing new video showing U.S. strikes on Iranian ballistic missile launchers. But analysts say Iran still has thousands of missiles in its arsenal. President Trump saying, quote, we haven't even started hitting them hard. The big wave hasn't even happened. The big one is coming soon. The president not ruling out ground troops in Iran, adding the U.S. is prepared for a prolonged conflict.
Whatever the time is, it's okay, whatever it takes. Right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks. But we have capability to go far longer than that.
But leaders within the administration say this will not be like previous wars in the Middle East.
This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. Our generation knows better, and so does this president.
Israel's prime minister echoing that sentiment.
You're not going to have an endless war because we are at this point that we've been, and Iran, this terror regime in Iran is the weakest point that it's been here since it hijacked Iran from the brave Iranian people 47 years ago. So this is going to be a quick and decisive action.
Another big concern right now is the price of oil. We have seen refineries across the region come under attack, and now Iran is vowing to attack any ship that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Keep in mind, 20% of the world's oil supply passes through that channel, so a prolonged disruption could have a major impact on prices. But now, so far, we have not seen a huge impact on the markets. But Sophie, the longer this drags on, the higher the risk.
Absolutely, Marcus. Thank you for that reporting. President Trump is responding to concerns about U.S. munitions stockpiles. He posted overnight, "We have a virtually unlimited supply of these weapons," but he did acknowledge the stockpile of some of the highest grade munitions is not where we want it to be, blaming that issue on U.S. support for troops in Ukraine.
In the meantime, we're learning more about why the Trump administration acted now to attack Iran. Here's ABC's Allison Cossack.
This morning, new questions about the administration's justification for the ongoing attack on Iran.
I found their answers completely and totally insufficient. In fact, at least to me, that briefing raised many more questions than it answered.
Since the first airstrike from Israel into Iran, President Trump said the objective was to eliminate imminent threats. Now the administration is elaborating, suggesting the imminent threat was prompted by Israeli military plans.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties.
But Rubio saying this when ABC's Jay O'Brien followed up.
The U.S. was forced to strike because of an impending Israeli action?
Ultimately, this operation needed to happen.
Many conservative voices pushing back on the military action. Commentator Matt Walsh on X saying, "So he's flat out telling us that we're in a war with Iran because Israel forced our hand. This is basically the worst possible thing he could have said."
Our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel. It's to look out for us. And this feels very much to me like it is clearly Israel's war.
President Trump responding to backlash among some of his MAGA supporters, telling ABC News, "MAGA wants to see our country thrive and be safe. This is a detour that we have to take in order to keep our country safe and keep other countries safe." The administration has also emphasized the need to destroy what it describes as Iran's restarted nuclear capabilities after talks between the U.S. and Tehran broke down.
They were proud of it. They were proud that they had evaded all sorts of oversight protocols to get to a place where they could deliver 11 nuclear bombs.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon and has to commit long-term to never trying to rebuild their nuclear capability.
Overnight, we learned President Trump submitted a war powers resolution to Congress yesterday, saying U.S. strikes on Iran were undertaken to protect U.S. forces in the region, protect the U.S. homeland, advance national interests, and defend our allies. Hannah, Sophie?
Allison, thank you. More from the Middle East in just a matter of moments, and we have nonstop coverage on the ABC News app.
We turn now to the newly released video of the Clintons testifying in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Their historic testimony revealing new insights about the sex offender's ties to the rich and famous.
This morning, video of Bill and Hillary Clinton's closed-door depositions over their alleged ties to Jeffrey Epstein are now public as the House Oversight Committee releases hours of testimony. The former president denied ever seeing Epstein act inappropriately or engaging in sexual acts, telling the committee that his brief acquaintance with Epstein ended years before his crimes came to light. However, Clinton said he found Epstein to be odd.
I felt friendly toward him, but he was, as I said in my book, odd.
He said he first recalled meeting Epstein when he accepted Epstein's offer to use his private plane for humanitarian travel tied to the Clinton Foundation's work. Lawmakers pressed Clinton about these photographs released by the Justice Department during one of his trips with Epstein, showing Clinton in a pool with Maxwell and another woman. Clinton said he did not know who the woman was.
Did you engage in any sexual activity with this person?
Clinton denied having any interest in underage girls after Congresswoman Nancy Mace pressed him about a claim Epstein made in 2016 that Clinton, quote, likes them young.
That's not true.
What's not true?
That I have any interest in underage.
I didn't say underage, I said young.
But it's still not true.
Is an intern young?
Yes.
During her deposition, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was asked about speculation that Jeffrey Epstein had ties to foreign intelligence agencies.
I am aware of the speculation around this that comes from the files being released and questions being raised. And I do think that is a fruitful area for the committee to investigate.
Clinton insisted she never met Epstein and considered Maxwell an acquaintance.
Former President Clinton testified he was unaware of any wrongdoing by President Trump and said he was told that Trump and Epstein had a falling out over a real estate deal.
Time now for your Tuesday weather.
Good morning. We're tracking a wintry mix moving through parts of the middle Atlantic and Northeast this morning. We're talking about Baltimore, Philadelphia, getting a little bit of a wintry mix, quickly changing over to rain. The Philly to New York City corridor, maybe a few hours of light snowfall and freezing rain before going over to plain rain. North and west of the I-95 corridor, more like maybe an inch or two of snow before that changeover. That moves into northern New England by later on in the day, where you could be looking at 3 to 6 inches, parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Meteorologist Jeff Smith, ABC News.
Coming up, a real eye-opener about how much sleep kids are getting these days.
But first, it's being called another miracle on the Hudson, the emergency landing outside New York City.
Plus, a woman trapped in her truck as water is rushing in, how she managed to speak to rescuers.
Back now with the 256 passengers who evacuated this United Airlines plane in Los Angeles. An engine fire forced the pilot to turn around minutes after taking off for Newark. The FAA is investigating the cause. A small plane crashed into the icy Hudson River last night, about 60 miles north of New York City. The 2 people on board swam to shore. The governor calls it another miracle on the Hudson, referring to the passenger plane that landed in the Hudson in 2009.
A remarkable rescue playing out in Ohio with a driver nearly drowning in her truck. 19-year-old Andy Burns was on her way home from work Sunday when the roads in Batavia, Ohio, slick with snow, caused her to lose control, sending her truck into a deep ravine.
Can you hear me? Help!
Her truck had flipped into a river, and as her Apple Watch crash detection called 911, water started rising around her.
How far is the water?
My head's barely up.
Okay. Is there any way you can get your window rolled down?
Burns was stuck. The only pocket of air? A 4-inch gap by the floorboards.
Please help me, please.
They're coming. They're coming. Just try to stay calm, okay?
Deputies locating Burns, then rushing to smash out the window and get her out of the truck. She escaped with just a few bruises. Meanwhile, we're learning more about another remarkable rescue.
This basket is tenuously hanging on the tower by a thread.
That hot air balloon that crashed into a cell phone tower in Longview, Texas over the weekend.
I grabbed a little bit of gear, got the basics of the plan, and started climbing because we knew we had a long ways to go.
Rescuers climbing nearly 1,000 feet high, up a ladder only 1 foot wide. One of them climbing despite his fear of heights.
You just got to focus on the next steps.
After more than an hour, rescuers reached the balloon. Heart-stopping video shows one of the balloon passengers slowly getting out. Roughly 30 minutes later, they were all safely back on the ground.
We've put our rope rescue students through a tower scenario for the last 10 years, and this allowed that to come together in a phenomenal manner.
Winchell says he has 18 years of experience, but he's never been even nearly that high.
So brave. Coming up, what police are now saying about the Nancy Guthrie case.
Also ahead, the so-called fire-breathing challenge on social media that nearly left a teenager dead. Back now with new strikes across the Middle East. Iranian drones hit the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia, causing minor damage. The U.S. is warning Americans to evacuate from 14 countries in the region. Here at home, a third person has died after a shooting rampage outside a bar in Austin, Texas. It was possibly linked to the attack on Iran. The gunman was wearing a T-shirt with an Iranian flag.
The sheriff in the Nancy Guthrie case says DNA is still a viable lead for potentially identifying a suspect in Guthrie's disappearance. Savannah Guthrie, her sister and brother-in-law visited Nancy's home yesterday, leaving flowers. Savannah posting, "We feel the love and prayers from our neighbors, from the Tucson community, and from around the country."
The Supreme Court appears ready to loosen a law that bans marijuana users from owning guns. The justices appeared skeptical of the Trump administration's argument to punish a Texas man charged under that law. The court is expected to rule by summer.
We turn now to parents on alert for another risky trend on social media.
This morning, a new warning about another dangerous challenge going viral on social media. This time, the so-called fire-breathing challenge.
We are not meant to breathe fire as human beings.
Authorities in Western Pennsylvania say a teenager is lucky to be alive after trying to breathe fire with isopropyl alcohol. The teen is now in the hospital, intubated with serious burns.
Luckily, in this particular case, it did not burn the building down, but somebody really got hurt and is going to have life-altering injuries from this incident.
Parents are being urged to pay close attention to what their children have access to when it comes to household products.
If they're doing their hair with chemicals, if they're taking isopropyl alcohol in the room or any type of fingernail polish remover, monitor your lighters and your matches. And educate your children.
In recent weeks, we've seen multiple cases of children injured after allegedly being inspired by trends or stunts online. In New York City, a 16-year-old had to be rescued after climbing this bridge and falling 70 feet down a narrow shaft, suffering severe injuries. In Illinois, a 9-year-old suffered third-degree burns when this toy he put in the microwave burst. A 7-year-old, apparently trying to copy the same challenge, ended up in a coma. The toy company says it worked with social media companies to remove videos showing misuse of the product.
In the fire-breathing case, the teen suffered serious burns to her face and chest.
Coming up, the American hero recognized 5 decades after Vietnam.
Also ahead, all-you-can-eat concessions, the ballpark with a home run of a deal. Time to check the pulse. We begin with an American hero honored nearly 58 years after saving dozens of lives.
He just received the Medal of Honor from President Trump. Terry Richardson was a platoon leader in a battle against the North Vietnamese in 1968.
He directed airstrikes for hours despite being wounded and saved the lives of 85 colleagues. 2 other Army soldiers who passed away also received the Medal of Honor yesterday. Next, teenagers are not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, it's now a crisis, apparently. According to experts, new research finds 77% of teens get insufficient sleep. Many say they get fewer than 5 hours a night.
Too much screen time gets part of the blame, along with too many activities. Not enough sleep could lead to depression and anxiety.
Next, an all-you-can-eat offer at the ballpark.
The St. Louis Cardinals have a new deal for their hungriest fans. Some seats this season will include an all-you-can-eat option. The tickets in left field cost just $29 and allow fans to enjoy as many stadium concessions as they can handle. The offer is aimed at attracting families to the ballpark.
And a different kind of promotion has ignited some controversy for the Atlanta Hawks. The NBA team recently teamed up with a strip club for a promotional deal, including selling a hoodie with the club's name on it and calling it a cultural institution. Critics call it distasteful.
Well, that is one way to do it. Top headlines next. Checking more top stories, President Trump is warning that a big wave is coming soon as the U.S. attacks Iran, and he's not ruling out American boots on the ground. At least 6 U.S. service members have been killed. The Trump administration is sending mixed messages about how long the conflict is expected to last and why it started in the first place. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is now saying the U.S. decided to hit Iran now because Israel was planning an attack that would have prompted Iran to strike U.S. targets.
Today is primary day in North Carolina, Texas, and Arkansas. All eyes are on the Texas Senate race. GOP incumbent John Cornyn is facing State Attorney General Ken Paxton and 6 others. And Democrat Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico are in a dead heat.
Jury deliberations begin today in the trial of Colin Gray. He is the man accused of giving his son the rifle that was used to kill 4 people in a school shooting in Georgia. Gray testified that he bought the gun for his son as a way of bonding.
Today's weather, showers in the northwest, rain in the plains, and a wintry mix along the I-95 corridor of the northeast this morning.
And finally, Bo the beaver and her best friend.
Danny New shows us their unique relationship.
On this World Wildlife Day, we are meeting a pair of best friends who have been on an educational mission together.
Oh my gosh. He's waving. She's waving at me.
Over the past 2 years, Alexis and a beaver at her animal rehabilitation facility named Bo have been picking up millions of views online.
She fit right in the palm of my hand.
As she details their journey from rescuer and rescuee to being close enough to groom each other.
And that's just how she builds family bonds that have, she considers us to be a colony.
Alexis first took in Bo 2 years ago after a flash flood led to her being found abandoned near Alexis's home in upstate New York. Alexis says she and her team looked everywhere for her family.
It was a series of miracles that had to line up for her to survive.
She's healthy now, but Bo did eventually lose her eye to disease, and her immune system in general is just forever compromised. So, unlike the other beavers in Alexis's care,
hey, Boo-Boo.
Bo is just going to have to stay under her supervision.
I can't go in there with you.
However, she gets out plenty, and as you can see, actually communicated to Alexis that she wanted to swim together, so she had to get a wetsuit. In the summer, they now swim regularly in the pond together. Also, Bo even served as ring bearer at Alexis and her now husband's wedding. In fact, Bo is even now a certified educational ambassador, and the two of them now travel to teach young folks about why beavers are so important to the environment and to our future.
It's good that Bo's here to remind people just how important they are.
And guys, you know, our parent company Disney actually has a movie about beavers coming out this week called Hoppers, and Alexis was actually invited to the world premiere, and she loved it. And she's not biased at all, right?
You are so right. That's your Good Morning America First Look. Have a great day.